Hi, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Veil. I'll be taking a look at The Soul Selects Her Own Society, the second track off Only Gossamer My Gown. And I'm really excited to talk about this. This is like, no lie, one of my very favorite Valentine Wolf songs. This video is made possible thanks to our supporters over on Patreon. So if you want to learn more about how you can keep this video and our music playing, we'll pop a link in the comments. Also, we'll get the commercial out of the way really quick. If you like what you're seeing and don't want to miss another video on the Valentine Wolf channel, be sure you like and subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff that we all know about now. So let's get into it. So The Soul Selects Her Own Society. Again, this song is an example of me learning my lesson in a lot of ways, and there's a couple different examples of that I'll tell you about. And really, the story of this song begins right after that fateful night when we did a program of Emily Dickinson songs at Hughes Main Library in April. After that show, we kind of looked at the set list and started talking about those songs we liked, the songs we didn't like, and this song, if I remember correctly, was not performed that night. This was one we added after the fact, after we kind of sort of said, okay, we need more songs, we don't like some of the ones we perform live. And Sarah said, I can absolutely write some more. And she said, what if we did The Soul Selects Her Own Society? Now, the lesson I learned was, way back in 2013, we did a project called Once Upon a Midnight featuring all of Edgar Allan Poe's work. And one of the songs she pitched during that process was Annabelle Lee. And I was utterly against it. I was like, we absolutely cannot do Annabelle Lee. It's way too popular. It's way too, it's too basic. No, we're not doing Annabelle Lee. And man, was I wrong. It's become arguably one of our most popular songs. You know, we've been playing it live for 7 years. I still don't get tired of it. So with that lesson learned, when she said, let's do Soul Selects Her Own Society, and later on when she said, because I could not stop for death, I absolutely said yes, absolutely, because I had gotten it so right with not doing Annabelle Lee. So, learn my lesson. This song, for whatever reason, reminds me a lot of 80s new wave and goth rock, especially a little bit the two Rush records, Power Windows and Grace Under Pressure, which are not exactly new wave, but those were my gateway albums into those songs and into that texture. And I can't really think of a specific song or an artist or doing it. It really, for me, is just the emotional feeling I get when I hear this, when I first heard the demo, when I first played along with it. It sort of feels like the way I remember my first exposure to that kind of style when I was in my very early high school days. And even though I was quite a bit of a heavy metal prog rock chauvinist then, there were still some of those songs I liked quite a bit. And as I grew older and more mature, I went back and got to like re-listen to those bands and really love it. And so for whatever reason, this song really reminds me of goth rock. And then we did a little bit of drawing from a bunch of different influences, especially our heroes. And when we look at, for example, all on Only Gossamer My Gown, I was listening to quite a bit of Paradise Lost. And when they talk about the bands they like, especially the non-metal bands, it kind of got me opening my ears up a little bit. And when I first heard the demo of the song, there was so much of that style. I was like, I didn't really want to change much of anything, especially my very favorite section of it, the middle section of the bridge. I remember telling Sarah, you need to write more bridges in your demo, and man, did she write a really awesome bridge. So the track itself is in C minor. The verse chorus section, or the alternating sections, it's about as simple as it gets. It's just two alternating chords, a C minor chord going to a B flat minor chord. The thing that I'm kind of interested in, I think is really cool about the B flat section is that it uses what I call the doom metal rhythm, this sort of staccato, sort of chug, kind of just ominous sound that I heard a lot in Typo Negative, Pale Horse Named Death, Oceans of Slumber, and of course Paradise Lost. So I think when we were doing it, we thought it was a nice contrast for me to add this distortion, this sort of heavy, almost halftime section against this sort of very light and open, I call it the sound of dusk falling texture that Sarah had composed. I think that inspiration in the very, very beginning, there was this really cool synthesizer texture that I added, these wonderful suspension and sort of clean bass, sort of different textures too, and I think it really, again, for whatever reason, that's just what it reminds me of. My favorite part, as I said, is the breakdown in the middle, where we kind of go into, we kind of branch out the harmonies a little bit and going to some very, very simple chords all around C minor. I think it's pretty much just A flat, E flat, and I think there's a C in there if I remember right. For whatever reason, when I think about that, I remember watching the Rush live video of A Show of Hands, and especially at the time, all the cool textures Alex Lifeson was doing. And whenever I play that, I kind of feel like I'm channeling my own inner Alex Lifeson on the bass, just to really accompany what Sarah was doing. All those wonderful vocal layers in that sound, it just really captured, to me, the sound of a very wistful, yearning heart. And I think maybe the intent was for me to do some sort of shreddy bass solo thing on it, and the first time I heard it, I was like, no, we're gonna leave it the way it is. And from the very first moment we hit it in the rehearsal room, I love playing this song. I don't have quite as much to say about it, other than that I'm gonna start wrapping it up here, rather than I felt a funeral. But that doesn't mean, when I was thinking about what I would want to say about this, it's just that feeling of goth rock vibe and just how fun it is to play. The last story I'll tell you about it, and it's something, if you go over to our Bandcamp, you can just hear this. You don't have to pay for it or anything, you can hear it streaming. This is a really good example of one of those riffs I talked about in the previous episode of, I did something live that we wish we had done on the record. And when we were working on the DragonCon live set we did earlier, and we then subsequently released, there's a breakdown where there's just a little bit of a drum solo and some synth texture for maybe 4 bars, where we get into the final verse chorus and kind of bring everyone home. And on the album, it's just really an empty, sparse space. We really wanted to kind of let the track kind of open up and kind of calm down a little bit. But live, I just sort of, on a whim, added this little very quiet sort of rhythmic texture. If you're a guitarist, it's like palm muting or something like that. And we were kind of rehearsing and running through it, and after I did it, we stopped. I think the first thing Sarah said was, I wish that was on the record. And so if you want to hear like some of the things we were talking about, that's a good place to do it. So I think it's just ValentineWolfBandcamp.com, and if you go to the DragonCon live set, I'm pretty sure you can just stream it for free, and you can compare that our live versions and our recorded versions often are quite different from one another. So that's what I want to say about Soul Selects, Her Own Society. It's a fantastic track. I hope you always enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoy playing it. It just really reminds me of Emily Dickinson just being utterly unafraid to go her own way. I liked it so much for a while, I was really holding out for it to be the opener of the album, and ultimately we decided I Felt a Funeral kind of got to the immediacy a little better. But this track is just, it's always one that we just really enjoy. So that's it for this episode. We'll be back next week with another look behind the veil of another Valentine Wolf track. I think I already did the commercial bits, so I'm just going to sign off and say we will see you again soon.